Welcome to SVG-TV News for Wednesday, August 19th, 2020. I am Rochelle Batiste with the details. The RSVG Police Force and Minister of National Security, Prime Minister Dr. Gonsalves, have dismissed reports that a Venezuelan aircraft intercepted in Miami on Saturday with a cache of guns, ammunition, and cash was bound for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. CBS Miami reported that agents with the U.S. Customs and Border Protection confiscated from the Learjet 18 assault rifles, dozens of semi-automatic pistols, over 60,000 ammunition, $20,000 in U.S. currency, and nearly $3 million in endorsed checks. The report says agents from the Fort Lauderdale Marine Unit alerted the feds to what it called a suspicious aircraft, which was then detained and searched. 2 Venezuelan nationals were taken into custody, who the report says were heading to St. Vincent. However, a news release issued by the RSVG Police Force Public Relations Department last evening stated that having been briefed on the matter, Commissioner of Police Colin John asserted that the CARICOM Implementation Agency for Crime and Security, CARICOM Impacts, confirmed that the aircraft in question was not destined for St. Vincent and the Grenadines, noting that the country's name was used only as a decoy. The police statement said SVG has been a bastion in the fight against illegal drugs and will continue to do so in collaboration with local, regional, and international partners. The RSVG Police Force statement noted that the Associated Press had quoted a special agent with the U.S. Homeland Security Investigations, Gerard Ryan, as saying that an affidavit supporting the criminal complaint against the pilots that one of the defendants said after being arrested that the aircraft's ultimate destination was Venezuela. The U.S. Special Agent, according to the RSVG Police Force statement, reportedly said from his training and experience, he knows that pilots have filed flight plans to third-party countries to avoid detection of their ultimate destinations to avoid scrutiny of law enforcement authorities. And commenting on the issue on radio today, Prime Minister Dr. Gonsalves, who is responsible for national security, air and seaports, said the criminal elements were just looking for a decoy, given the current relationship between Venezuela and the U.S.
Is that the plane and the ammunition and all the rest of things, that they were going, the story that I understand it, they were going to see if they can create problems for the Maduro government, to see if they could overthrow it or contribute to overthrowing it. The government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines recognizes the Maduro government. In any case, we don't get involved in internal business with terrorism and war and drugs and all of these things. I don't know what the plane is. What I could tell you is that no plane has ever come here with ammunition and guns, and so nothing like that has happened before, because when planes come here, they're examined by the security authorities.
The government acted in accordance with the law when it acquired lands on the McLean estate at Murray's Village. So says Prime Minister Dr. Gonsalves on radio today, while noting that it was never a communist-style acquisition as being claimed.
We don't have any law in this country called expropriation. No government can expropriate people's property. Expropriation is a different thing than acquisition. Acquisition has to be done within the 4 walls of the law and the Constitution. And if it's not done in the 4 walls of the law and the Constitution, the aggrieved landowner could challenge the government in the law courts, in the independent law courts, and certainly you have a right. If a compensation is offered, they're not satisfied with it, to go to the tribunal. You go to a board of assessment in which you have representation in it. There's a judge, the government will have a representative, and you will have a representative.
PM Gonsalves said the landowners will be paid accordingly in a reasonable time.
During the constitutional referendum, you know, I wanted to change that from reasonable time to within 1 year. But I was opposed. Could you imagine that? So it's within reasonable time. Remains what it was. The owners get their money in as quick a time as possible. And I want them to get paid soonest.
The Prime Minister said that he respects the landowner Simone Murray and asked that the issue not be used as a propaganda, noting that his government has a genuine interest for helping the poor with housing development.
And we are acting out of the purest and noblest of aims and objectives, you know, to facilitate the further extension of the public housing policy and to make sure that these persons are secured on the land which they have been for 25 years plus. I don't see how that could be unreasonable.
Stand with your union regardless of your political persuasion. That's the encouragement for members of the SVG Teachers Union coming from President Oswald Robinson at a press conference yesterday discussing several issues of concern for the union, including matters relating to the reopening of schools amidst the threat of COVID-19. The advice come as he responded to a question related to the nomination of a known educator, Curtis King, who will be contesting the upcoming general election on the ULP ticket. Speaking on the issue of members running for political office, Robinson said that the union doesn't stand in anyone's way, as its main focus is the welfare of members, regardless of which political party they support. He said members, however, should always put the union first.
I want members of them to understand this. Stand up with your union. The union is your voice. The union is what is going to stand up for you at the end of the day. Go and vote for who you want, that's your thing. Nobody getting into that. But when the leadership of the union takes a position in your interest, forget about your party and jump up with the union. Stay with the union. When they're done, you can go back and meet them. But I would also urge you, when you are in your political party at your constituency council or wherever, whatever structure, put the union agenda on that. When people come to vote for you, tell them, we need more money. COVID is difficult times now. We're spending more, but you freeze our increase in salary.
Robinson said while the union is happy when teachers take up higher office in the political realm, historically this doesn't further the cause of the union and its members.
2 ministers of education, a minister of education and a minister of state, and they were teachers. We have had a lot of ministers of education who were teachers, and we were happy that they become part of the higher service, because we always want our teachers to serve at a higher level. But in reality, it makes no difference. In most cases, you're wearing a different hat, you're on a different side, and you have to think like those who are with you. Because at the end of the day, when we signed the collective agreement in 2003, we had 2 ministers of education. And we had to fight tooth and nail, even to get the business of the teachers union on the 100 days program. We had to pin them down to start the negotiations. And a lot of the stuff that we would have agreed, now we still have to fight to keep these things. We talk about hard air allowance, we talk about election leave. We talk about study leave. We as a union now still have to fight, so we have to watch.
And Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves says general elections in St. Vincent and the Grenadines will be held before the end of the year, and preparations are being put in place by the electoral office. He said that from all indication, it could be the first time SVG is holding an election during a pandemic.
One of the things I don't want to happen, if we are having an election during the time of COVID, and it looks as though that is what will be happening as we going forward, because we're going to have the elections before the end of the year. I don't want to see voter suppression.
The Prime Minister said that the Chief Elections Officer has been in dialogue with the Chief Medical Officer on protocols which will be needed for the elections.
And there are several places you have to have the protocols for. You have the inside of the polling station. You have people lining up to go to the polling station. So there are specific things which have to be done. And if any statutory rules and order have to be made within the framework of the Representation of the People Act to strengthen the protocols, or under the Public Health Act for that matter.
PM Gonsalves said the Building, Roads and General Services Authority, BRAXA, will also be involved in the preparation process, as rehabilitation work will have to be carried out at some polling stations.
But as on to Ken Bartholomew at BRAXA, in relation to what the supervisor of election had provided to them, a number of areas would have to provide ramps, people with wheelchair. Then there are a number of polling stations which need some repairs. For instance, the community center at Chester Cottage needs substantial repairs. That's a polling station. The others, I give an example.
Starting at 8 this evening, PM Gonsalves and his ruling Unity Labour Party will be hosting their first virtual meeting to launch 4 new candidates who will be contesting the upcoming general elections on the ULP ticket. The meeting will be carried live on SVG-TV. An elderly woman fell over an embankment in Coles Hill last night, reportedly on her way to a political meeting. Heartbroken relatives are appealing to the authorities to put more street lights in the area and for the retaining wall where the woman fell to be built higher. Larissa Pugsley Kidd tells us more in this report.
Around 7 last evening, Marion Brown and her 86-year-old mother, Eileen Watson, were on their way to a political meeting but never made it there, as the elderly Watson fell over a steep embankment at Spouthead, Coles Hill, and landed several meters below. The daughter of the deceased said that she had discouraged her mother from attending the meeting as she was not feeling well.
When Princess come and told me that how Labour Party going to have thing by the school and how they're going to share money. So she told my mother about it. I tell my mother that she must go nowhere because she not eat nothing as yet. My mother go inside and don't dress and tell me let us go. And I still don't be satisfied. But anyhow I leave home and I start to go with my mother. When we reach by the spot here, my mother, I still tell her she ain't going nowhere. I hold in and I try to hold in and she and put her she ain't going nowhere, and she pull away and tell me she's a big woman. So when I try to tell she let me go home back, I try to take my hand to she to tell she go home back, and she pull away and she foot slip and she get over.
Today, police investigators were again at the scene, combing the area. Daughter of the deceased said that her mother lived with her granddaughter and is saddened how she met her death.
Well, she going over me here when she said nothing more. She just went over. Well, I wish my mother to get a good burial because I will miss she.
Other relatives who revisited the scene today said they would like to see more street lights installed in the area and the retaining wall built higher.
You want to do because the water come and water hit front so you weaken the walling. So everybody will drop out, and then after that, then the wall will raise up.
I was wrong at the meeting and then I heard about the incident, but where I say if she missed the light there and she got dark side, she go over, which is supposed to happen like that. But I'm feeling so sad about the granddaughter, and it really pains my heart right now to see you have to lose the grandmother in such a way like that. And they need a wall, and somebody they should put in another pole and put a light for safety. And in case if a vehicle will go over here, it will be more deaths. So I will try to avoid that.
For SVG-TV News, Larissa Pogsley-Kidd.
The youth of SVG have been challenged to give of their best and remember God in all things. This comes from Cristobel Ashton, chair of the Methodist Church Scholarship Committee, who was speaking at a handing over ceremony yesterday of 3 full-time scholarships and 24 bursaries to assist students with their secondary school education. The church's scholarship program was introduced in 2019 and originally intended to offer 3 full scholarships and 4 bursaries to students entering secondary school. Ashton said given the economic fallout of the COVID-19 pandemic, it was decided they can do more to assist the nation's children.
Children to go to school, especially now that many parents are out of work. Last year, we started with 4 bursaries. We had 7 applications last year. And seeing that it was the first year, we said, why not give every child something? Bursaries were not in the original thinking of what we are doing. So after we had several applications and we did not want to turn anyone away without something, we gave the 3 scholarships and 4 bursaries. And so this year, as I said just now, because of the situation, we decided to give as a circuit 20 bursaries altogether, the 4 from last year, which was the President, to 16 additional ones this year. The scholarship, however, which remained constant as 3, is a year's grant of $1,500. $1,500 every year for your secondary education.
Ashton wished this year's scholarship and bursary recipients the very best on their academic journey.
So you would get a startup amount, then there would be 1 installment for the start of the term, and a 2nd installment after midterm, because we know that the first term is a long term, and then an installment at 2nd term and 1 finally at 3rd term. We hope that this can assist with your transportation, with your school meals, whatever needs you may have. That is part of the reason we have subdivided the scholarship into several installments. It is not for 1 year, it is for your school life. And we hope that those children who have been awarded scholarships would spend only 1 year in a form that you would not repeat. We hope that all our children's scholarships and bursaries would do their best, that you would remember that God is with you and it is God who is using us to provide this for you, and so that you'd always look to God in your own way and let those little seeds of giving and love germinate in your heart.
The Ashton Lagoon in Union Island is home to a rich variety of plants and animals which help to sustain life and livelihood for residents. As part of activities to educate the public about this and other natural sites in SVG, the Sustainable Development Unit, in collaboration with Sustainable Grenadines Inc. and GCG, held its third funding nature tour to the lagoon last Friday. SVG-TV's Bavin Oliver was there and files this report.
The energetic chirps of birds, rich, lush green landscapes, crystal clear blue waters and skies were just some of the sights and sounds experienced on the Fun in Nature tour at the Ashton Lagoon in Union Island. The Ashton Lagoon has a rich variety of mangroves which help to protect the land space from degradation and also serves as a nesting place for many birds and marine species. Technical Officer with the Sustainable Grenadines, Odwin Andrews, highlighted some of the work done at the marine area.
What SUSGren did is that over the years we did our engineering and then decided to create these two large gaps which continues to serve as access point for locals and visitors alike to access the Frigate Island, which is on my left side. And Frigate Island is a bird habitat where a lot of individuals go and view various species of birds and so forth. So as I said before, the ecosystem here works hand in hand. The mangrove serves as a shelter habitat for marine life and birds. The birds, they feed on the marine life, they take shade and comfort from those bigger predators out in the ocean. So what we've seen during our monitoring period over the past year and a half is that we've seen lobsters, baby crabs, fish, kingfish, barracuda, young fish species that will be going up through the mangrove. And as I said before, those that survive, they come through and they head back to the ocean. Those otherwise, how the ecosystem works, the bird, that's food for the birds within this area.
Andrews said along with the nature tours, the lagoon is the perfect space for persons who are engaged in environmental studies.
Well, since we've opened this area over a year and a half ago, we've had school tours locally, the primary and secondary school, as far as the kindergartens, and we've had Myro Primary School coming over as well, and from mainland St. Vincent we had some students from the community college. So this area is definitely, I would describe it as the perfect research area for those who are involved in environmental studies, and you will learn more. There's a lot of information on biodiversity here that I would not be able to tell you right now because it's going to be an all-day interview. So yes, I'll encourage individuals who are involved in environmental studies, climate change, that the Ashton Lagoon Eco Trail, this is the perfect place for you to come and do your thesis, your studies, and learn more about climate change, coastal protection, mangrove, the ecosystem, biodiversity. It's all in one group right here at the Ashton Lagoon.
In a few areas, the natural beauty of the lagoon is spoiled by the presence of litter. Andrew said this is something they are battling with daily, with a lot of plastic bottles brought in by the tide. Andrew spoke on the work being done to encourage residents and others to take better care of the lagoon and the environment.
We are left with that responsibility of cleaning, but the more we clean, the more we see these plastic bottles especially coming through that particular area. However, as part of the garbage problem on the island, along with other groups who have done this before us, what we've done through our Jeff-funded project and Birds Caribbean is to install disposable bins. These disposable bins, you will find them in the Belmont area, which we're also doing some development in the Belmont Salt Pond, and along here the Ashton Lagoon. We've put in place at the Ashton Lagoon thus far 4 of these bins, and on these bins you have different bird species that are printed. So as you go along the way, you'll see these bins and you see the name of the bird. So for those persons who are interested in birds and so forth, it's a learning experience. So you have somewhere to throw your trash while you're being educated somewhat. And but as I said, the garbage, the problem on Union Island, it's not totally under control, but we're working along with other local groups and private citizens as well to ensure that we have a garbage-free zone on Union Island.
For SVG-TV's Evening News, I am Bavin Oliver.